everyone, and welcome to A Broad's Way Through Broadway. I'm your host, the Broad, Allison Chicorel, and today we'll be discussing Seussical. Yeah! Here to join me is Niki Cairns. Hi, Niki.
Hi, everyone.
So I picked Niki to join me for Seussical. Well, we have a lot of shows that we're both like kind of completely nuts about. And Seussical is definitely one of them. And I have to say, when I asked her to join me on this, you guys, she's like, I'm just gonna kind of be like this big fangirl about the whole thing. Is that okay? And I'm like, that's okay. I'm pretty sure every other line in this podcast, you guys, in this episode, every other thing we say is I just love this show.
Best, yes.
It's definitely a favorite for both of ours. For those of you who are not familiar with Seussical, as usual, I'm going to say stop listening to this podcast, go listen to it, then come back. It's a completely sung musical. Yeah, it's one of those crazy ones like Joseph and a few others that are completely sung. There's no spoken dialogue. There's no like scenes where they just stop singing and just speak like normal humans. That's what's great about it. Lyrics by Lynn Ahrens and composed by Stephen Flaherty. I've actually never heard those names in real life. These are some of my favorite composer and lyricists, but I'm going to be really embarrassing for a minute and admit that I'm not 100% sure that that's how you pronounce their names. Lynn Ahrens and Stephen Flaherty. Great dynamic duo. Seussical opened on Broadway in 2000 and closed in 2001.
I know. So sad. Ew.
I know. So sad. I don't understand. I mean, I do understand. We'll get into it a little bit on why its life was so short on Broadway. But yeah, it starred Kevin Chamberlain as Horton the Elephant, David Shiner as the Cat in the Hat, Michelle Pock as Maisie LeBird, Andrew Keenan Boulder as Jojo, Janine Lamanna as Gertrude McFuzz. Niki, I don't know who any of these people are.
I know, and there's actually like the kid who originally was Jojo, Anthony Blair Hall. At least the Boulder kid went on to do Newsies, but I don't know anything that Anthony Blair Hall has done since Jojo.
No. Yeah, same. For me, and we'll get into that later too. Yeah, it's all Kevin Chamberlain over here. I admit it was not the original Broadway cast was not a bunch of big names. Even Kevin Chamberlain at the time was not an enormous name. But the show was not super well received by critics, and only survived one little year on Broadway. And it was nominated for one Tony Award in 2001. It was for Kevin Chamberlain as Horton for Outstanding Actor in a Musical and for Best Actor in a Musical. He did not win. I'd have to look up who he lost to that year. I'm sure there were like probably 7 other like really big deal shows going on in 2001. That had to compete with, or that Seussical had to compete with. Poor Seussical. So yeah. Now, don't let that scare you away. Yeah, it was only on Broadway for like 5 minutes, but it is seriously such a good show. It makes you laugh, it makes you cry. It's great for kids, but has this undertone that's very, very adult. I mean, it's Dr. Seuss, for goodness sake. So I mean, that right there is kind of. Yeah, you're a little bit like, is it good for kids? Like, yeah, because it's going to go right over their heads. But the adults will kind of be like, wait, what? So Niki, tell me, I won't speak for you, but your relationship with this show.
Yes.
You've directed it?
I sure have.
A kids production. The Broadway junior versions. Those of you who have listened before, I've talked about the Broadway junior versions that are out there running a children's theater myself. We sometimes have these things called Broadway junior scripts, which are just basically shorter versions of the Broadway show. There's usually not a lot of big changes in them, generally just like cuts from songs, and some songs are cut, some scenes are cut to just make it, shorter. And if there is anything like wildly adult in it, they'll cut that, and I'm not in favor of that. But Seussical, I feel, is a good one that works as a junior production, I feel.
I think the only thing that the junior version misses is the rest of JoJo's story. Like, this is all supposed to be about JoJo's imagination and how he gets in trouble for it. And then they cut the entire thing about him being sent to military school. So you don't really know, how much trouble he's really in by his parents. It's all just kind of sweet and saccharine. And which, is, like you said, it's great for a junior version, but it really misses some important aspects to the actual plot.
It does. So it's one of those ones where if you're not familiar with the full normal version of Seussical and your first introduction to it is the junior version, you'll probably love the junior version just fine. Like, it's fantastic. It's darling. It's an appropriate length. There's a lot of really fun roles. And then, but if you're coming into this having seen the full version and then see the junior version, you'll probably have some issues with the amount of things that they cut in order to just shorten it for the kids. When like I've said before, kids are so much quicker at learning things in theater and memorizing things than adults. So the fact that they have to make things that they feel like they have to make things shorter for kids, it's kind of like, well. I understand it's an audience thing that kids are going to watch it and kids don't sit, for longer shows, which I understand. But getting a little ahead of ourselves here. So I actually don't even know if we've ever talked about this before. Was Seussical Junior... were you familiar with the full version, or was your first introduction to the musical the junior version?
I actually saw the full version first, and I saw that at First Stage in Milwaukee.
Awesome.
And we went there on a whim, like a Girl Scout trip. So I knew nothing about it, and we saw the full version, and I just was like, this is crazy that people just didn't like this show, and it didn't really carry on Broadway, because to do this, regional theater in Milwaukee and to have it done so well was just amazing. So then, I started with the full version, and then of course worked on the junior versions after.
Right.
Yeah.
And then fun fact. So Niki's daughter was my JoJo, which is one of the principal characters in the show. When we did this show at the Box Theater over here in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. And that's kind of how Niki and I actually kind of really got connected for the first time. This was her daughter's second show at my theater, but her first lead. And she was marvelous, and she was adorable. She's all grown up now. She's not all grown up, but she's a full-on teenager now, and she was just this little JoJo. So that sort of is our little connection with with Seussical, and that we're both just kind of a little bit obsessed with this show. I want to say I had heard the show, like I had heard the Broadway soundtrack a bunch of times. I'd heard a lot of songs from it, just sort of like, I don't know, just in and out throughout basic theater life. But I didn't see a full staged production of the full show until I want to say it was maybe 2006 or 2007 at the Waukesha Civic Theater. No one knows what Waukesha is. It's near Milwaukee. A friend of mine, Jacob, was directing it, and I went and saw it, and I honestly, I fell in love with it. I had a lot of friends in the cast, so obviously that helped. But even if I had just kind of stumbled into a random theater just to see what this show was like, and I have to preface this, I'm not like this big, crazy Dr. Seuss fan to begin with. I'm really not. Growing up, Dr. Seuss wasn't one of the books that was always read to me, or little cartoons that I always watched. It wasn't really I've always like known of Dr. Seuss, and yeah, there are some of like the poems and books that I kind of like know of and like, or some quotes, you know, a lot of Dr. Seuss quotes that I like, but it wasn't until Seussical the musical that my appreciation for that writing kind of exploded.
Yes.
Because if it's one of those shows that you almost like, I almost want to have audiences when they watch the show, almost have one of those screens up of subtitles, closed captions, so that you don't miss any of the brilliant quotes in this stuff, especially the fact that it's all sung. Whenever something is entirely sung, there's always that element that you're probably gonna miss some stuff, just because of musical dynamics and things like that. But it's like you don't want to miss anything because it's gold.
It's gold, and it's one of those musicals. Like if they could do a recorded version of it and then do like one of those like pop-up videos with little facts, because not every character in Seussical is all from the same book. Like the way that they wrote this, they're all from different stories, and so for you to know that, you know, Gertrude McFuzz was in her own book, but Maisie and Horton were really together in a book. That would be so fun, because if you don't know those characters, you're kind of like, oh, is this just a made-up story? But no, he really combines a lot of the stories into one musical. So lyrics and a pop-up would be awesome.
Yes, it's one of those things where, like going to see Wicked if you're not familiar with Wizard of Oz, which I don't know if any humans over the age of like 3 exist, where you don't know what Wizard of Oz is, but like it's one of the what was it this on Disney Plus, they have this new Marvel show, the WandaVision. That's what it was.
Oh yes.
I was hesitant about watching it. I'm going somewhere with this. People are probably like, wait, what? Seussical? What? Yeah, WandaVision, just for a second. I heard about this WandaVision thing, and everyone was saying you should watch it, and I kept saying no, because I don't follow the Marvel series. Like I've missed, you know, all the Avengers movies and all this. Like I'm not well caught up with those characters in that universe, so I won't enjoy this particular show. And I watched it and I enjoyed it very much. Would I have enjoyed it more if I was familiar with, you know, all these other characters? Yes. But it's not that I couldn't enjoy it even though I wasn't familiar. And I think a lot of things are like that. And I think Seussical is like that, where if you did really grow up with like all these different books and really know all the backgrounds of all these characters, you will enjoy it even more. But it's still very, very enjoyable, even if you're just meeting all these characters for the first time.
Yes.
So you first saw it at first stage, and then it was just a few years later before your daughter was in the junior version.
Yes.
Okay. Can we talk about this Broadway cast for a minute and the fact that we don't know anyone?
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to throw in a few fun facts.
What a segue.
So when Seussical was dying, basically, on Broadway, they were like, we need to rethink this casting. So they were bringing in like stunt casting.
Yep.
So Rosie O'Donnell played the cat for a while. Kathy Rigby, who was like famous Peter Pan on Broadway, she played it.
The longest running Peter Pan.
Aaron Carter, so he's like the Backstreet Boys, Nick Carter's little brother. He came in as JoJo. So to like try to like put some names in there, because literally nobody knows these people. Like, I don't normally need to do research on Broadway names, and I really had to look at their credits, and I was like, oh, how fun for them that they got to be in this show.
Same. Totally same. Those of you who listen to my other episodes, you know, I'm pretty full of a lot of Broadway names. I feel like I know a decent amount. You know, I've been hearing these people's names since I was 2 years old, and my dad was babbling them at me. Like I know Broadway names, and I too. You know, I looked through this list, and I'm looking through this list, and the interesting thing is, I hardly know anyone on this original Broadway cast list. However, when you listen to the Broadway cast recording, you feel like you do. And not just Horton.
Right.
Because Kevin Chamberlain has a very distinctive voice that does, his Horton and his Uncle Fester, they're pretty close to the same.
They are, yeah.
And I did talk with my friend Matt, who's on a couple other episodes here with me, and he met Kevin Chamberlain, and I had to ask him. I said, "What's his real voice? Is that his real voice?" I've never seen him in an interview or anything like that. I only know his voice as Horton and Uncle Fester in Addams Family, and he said that his voice isn't far off from that. He said he characters it up a little bit, but not very much. And these other people, because they're all playing kind of really quirky characters, there's something about them that makes them sound familiar.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess is my point. Like, I was honestly shocked when I looked through and to see what do I know this voice from? Like David Shiner, the Cat in the Hat. I listened to that voice and it's like, I know this voice. I'm 100% sure I do. I just can't place it. And I looked up all his credits and I don't know.
Nope.
I don't know him.
It looks like he wrote something for himself at one time. This is so bad. I'm just going to throw in a Kevin Chamberlain thing. Like, since you don't have a daughter who's my daughter's age, there was a show on Disney called Jessie, and he played the butler on there, Kevin Chamberlain.
Oh.
And literally I could close my eyes and I was like, Horton is the butler on this show because it's so distinctive as an actor. But then I was thinking, well, maybe these people went on to do other things like TV like he did. And no, there's really nothing. But I think you're so right that there are distinct
There's something familiar.
Voices. The sour kangaroo, especially. I mean, it's so powerful. And I would love to know where she's going now with that voice.
And in the Sour Kangaroo, I looked her up, and she doesn't even have a lot of other stage credits. She did like a million guest appearances, cameo, one episode type roles on like a whole ton of TV shows.
Oh my gosh.
And all of which I've never seen. No TV, not like Friends or a voice on The Simpsons or something that I would have seen. Like nothing that like a lot of the soap operas and Law and Order that everyone and their mother has been on and things like that. That it's like nothing that I would have known her from, and it's so confusing because the voices really are just so familiar. There was the one JoJo, Andrew Keenan Boulder. He did some other things.
He was crutchy in Newsies.
Okay,
so that was pretty big role for him. Yeah.
So he had that, and then he's not on the Broadway cast recording of Beauty and the Beast, but he did replace the Chip from the original Broadway cast of Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
He replaced Chip. And then the only other thing that I feel like, okay, maybe I know the voice, but obviously it's a completely different voice, was Tuck in Tuck Everlasting, the musical. But that's years later. So, he was an unchanged voice, a little boy's voice in Seussical. By the time he was Tuck in Tuck Everlasting, he's a changed voice. So that's not even I recognize his voice from Tuck Everlasting. No, you don't. It's 10 years later, and his voice is different. I mean, not 10 years later. I'd have to look up when Tuck Everlasting was, but I know it wasn't right after Seussical.
Well, yeah, think about the gap between Seussical and Newsies. That's a huge gap.
Right. Right. Yeah, but I don't know, the girl who plays Gertrude, she had a lot of really nice credits to her name, but nothing that you would necessarily know her from because none of them are the Broadway cast recordings. She was replacement of Evelyn Nesbit in Ragtime, replacement Charity in the Sweet Charity Revival, replacement Janet in Drowsy Chaperone. So it's like these are like really impressive, awesome credits, but nothing when we're talking about, hearing an actor's voice and trying to place what you know them from. It's none of those.
Right. It's none of it. No.
It makes you wonder, like, which one of these was, like, my neighbor growing up, and that's why I recognize their voice. It's something from totally, because it's not from any, show or movie or TV show or something. It's very, very confusing. Very confusing. So, but yeah, you're right, though. Back on to this Rosie O'Donnell and Aaron Carter thing. I mean, obviously, that's something that producers just do that now for financial reasons and to just give, the show's even, a standing chance is throw some celebrities in there. I know that a lot of musical theater nerds, for lack of a better phrase, like us, they'll see they're doing a new movie musical of a show and they're thinking of putting this person or that person in it, and they're not Broadway names, they're movie people, and that makes us upset because it's like, why aren't you using Broadway singers for your Broadway movie musical? And for me, I'm half theater nerd, but I'm half business manager. Like, I manage my own business, so I look at the budgetary things too and the financial things too. And I get that side of, we're gonna put Amanda Seyfried as Sophie in Mamma Mia.
Right, yes.
Yeah, even though there's probably a lot of, a gajillion Broadway singers who could vocalize that role a lot better than her, but will they bring people to the box office?
Right.
Probably not as much as Karen from Mean Girls. So
or let's see, Jeremy Jordan was supposed to be in The Greatest Showman, and Zac Efron took that role. Like, I've watched little videos of Jeremy singing the songs, and I was like, okay, now that is a voice. But outside of musical theater, who knows Jeremy Jordan?
Yeah, and he brought in the crowd, and it helped the finances, and it's like, from a management side point, like, I understand that. From the theater nerd standpoint, it's like, give these roles to people who can really vocally handle it.
Yeah.
But I understand both sides. So in regards to Seussical, kind of flopping, and you look at the cast and go, well, maybe they needed some people to be like, I can respect that decision of, throw Aaron Carter in there, throw Rosie O'Donnell in there. I remember when they did the TV filming live, whatever they call them, when they do a musical and they live film it. They did it for Hairspray and Sound of Music. They did it for Sound of Music. And they had Carrie Underwood play Maria, this country star play Maria, and it's like, ooh, such an odd choice. But I remember people going kind of crazy over that. And here I'm thinking, they then put Audra McDonald, who's one of the best Broadway names ever, as the I don't like Sound of Music. Who's the main nun? Mother nun.
Mother Abbess. Yes, Mother. Yes.
Yeah, Mother Abbess.
Yes.
Mother Abbess.
Oh God, yes. I didn't even watch that because I was so ticked at it. But anyway.
But I remember thinking they put Carrie Underwood as Maria, and then they put this amazing Broadway singer who deserves more attention from non-Broadway people. Non-Broadway people should know who Audra McDonald is.
Yes.
And by putting Carrie Underwood in Sound of Music as Maria, that drew in a non-Broadway crowd who then discovered Audra McDonald. And it's like, see, that I get. It's like that. I feel for me, that was worth it, because otherwise all these other non-Broadway people who wouldn't have watched if it was, say, Laura Osnes as Maria.
Yes,
who wouldn't have watched. They watched it because of Carrie Underwood. Carrie Underwood said, here, let me show you this singer. Yeah, and now non-Broadway people knew who Audra McDonald was. So it all works out. It all balances out. But so in regards to a business standpoint, I understand that, and I would be curious. I think during a break I'm going to look on YouTube to see if there is any footage of Aaron Carter playing JoJo, because that.
Oh my gosh! The only thing I vividly remember when Rosie O'Donnell had her own show, and she was like, "I've got this opportunity to be the cat," and I was like, "You can't sing." But the cat doesn't really need to sing. The cat can just sing the whole time and be goofy, and that's what she was good at. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure she drew a crowd. But I was really like, okay, so just anybody gets to be on Broadway now.
If you're already famous and can
bring a crowd. Already famous.
Yeah, well, and I'd just be interested, because when you listen to the Broadway soundtrack of Seussical, this Andrew Keenan Boulder, and listen to him as JoJo, he has that very traditional Broadway kiddo sound, the Broadway kiddo sound. Kind of like Andrew McArdle did when she played Annie, and I forget the boy who plays James in James and the Giant Peach. If you listen to that soundtrack, these children who just have that kind of stage voice sound, and Aaron Carter has a very poppy kind of like, raspy, poppy, slightly nasally in an okay way.
Yeah.
It's just a completely different, it's nothing like against his talent. It's a completely different style. So I would just be curious to like hear kind of that rendition of it. It is like,
Yeah, no, I think we definitely need to look that up because, the JoJo that I cast was a girl, and my daughter obviously played JoJo as a girl, so it should be like JoJo is supposed to be the sweet, innocent.
Yeah, and I just like I don't know. I picture because I'm also coming from I was born in 1988, so I was of the time where close to Aaron Carter's age. So when I was like 10 to 12 years old, Aaron Carter was like the heartthrob of like my preteen years.
Yes.
So he was one where it's like, oh, I had an Aaron Carter poster on my bedroom door, that sort of thing. And now I'm like, he was on Broadway as JoJo in like one of my favorite musicals. Like it's interesting. So we're gonna have to YouTube that on our break. But yeah, I think I mean, and Kathy Rigby, she was one of the replacements too to bring in some more to try to up the finances. Do you know who she played?
I think she was the cat.
She played.
I think she.
Oh, she was the cat after Rosie.
Yes.
Okay.
So, which kind of makes sense because she's an acrobat and all that stuff, so she could pull off that physical comedy. But I don't know who they were trying to pull in with that. Maybe just like old school Broadway people to come see.
Oh yeah, old school Broadway people. All the Peter Pan people. Peter Pan people. Ooh, that's fun.
Peter Pan people.
Well, and also because I was finding too they also made some changes after it was on Broadway for a while. They made some changes that also, and I don't know if this was during or after the Rosie O'Donnell, Aaron Carter, Kathy Rigby phase. I don't know if this was during or after that, but they made some changes to the way that the show was produced. And I don't know if they cut a few things or added a few things or both, but they made significant changes that then when the show went on tour, it was really, really well received.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which like I said, I didn't know, and it kind of makes up a little bit for the fact that our favorite show in the world didn't do well on Broadway. But you gotta wonder what show was it when it was on Broadway? Because I didn't see it on Broadway. You didn't see it on Broadway.
Nope.
I'd have to check with one of my other co-hosts, Matt, who, I bring him on this show a lot because he goes to New York constantly and always sees Broadway shows and has a pile of playbills, my height of signed autographs of Broadway stars. I'd be curious to see if he saw the original and if like was it different than like the version, for example, that you and I know that schools produce a lot and that community theaters produce a lot. Like, was there something just really off about it that people didn't like? Some sort of if there was an issue with the connection to the original Dr. Seuss stories, inconsistencies with that, if they didn't feel like it paid enough respect to the original stories and or something like that. But I did see something in there about that there were some changes and that the tour did well.
Okay.
Which is random.
But you think like Tuck Everlasting didn't last on Broadway, and it's a beautiful musical, and who knows why things bomb on Broadway? I have no idea. Going back to Seuss can be dark. There was some darkness to the original and to the big full-length version.
Yeah.
But it's Seuss.
and it's the kind of thing too where it's even like when you wonder, some TV shows that don't get picked up or don't get picked up for an additional season, and sometimes you're the one sitting there going, what? That was like the best thing on TV lately. Yeah. And it's like, oh, well, it had a bad time slot or something. Or you never know. I know for me, there's plenty of musicals that flopped on Broadway and I love them to death. And there are plenty of musicals that for some reason ran on Broadway for 50 billion years. And I think I'm not going to say I think they suck, because all musicals, even musicals that I don't like, there's still items about them that I can respect because it's still a musical at the end of the day. But I'm going to say, like, some of my least favorite musicals lasted on Broadway for years. And I'm just kind of like, how did that last forever? And people just kept, like, running to see it for years and years. And then something like Seussical got kicked out after, like, 5 minutes. It's crazy.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, listen, Niki, I think we're going to take a short little break here, but let's go look up and see if we can find some footage of Aaron Carter playing JoJo because that's funny. But when we come back, I'd like to. I think we should make up a dream cast here because I know that with you and I having both directed this show, I think it's going to be time for another Broadway Dreamcast where Niki and I get to go on Broadway and direct a show and time travel and put whoever we want in our production of Seussical.
Okay, we get to time travel. Awesome. All right.
Awesome. So sit tight, everyone. We'll be right back in a couple minutes after this word from our friends over at 6'5 Media.
One heist. 6 plots for betrayal. When Raya Cautela cons 5 other thieves into helping her steal a magical artifact from the most powerful man in the world, she knows she's playing with fire. What she doesn't know is that the rest of her crew is just as underhanded as she is, and they all have plans of their own. M.J. Kuhn's Among Thieves, a fantasy heist novel full of twists, turns, and betrayal, available beginning September 7th wherever books are sold. Visit mjkuhn.com for more details.
Welcome to our new podcast. Welcome to our new podcast.
This isn't working.
Agreed. I think we're going to have to do it turn by turn.
Well, now that you mention it, we are a brand new RPG video game podcast.
Our very existence hinges on turn-based gaming.
So join us on the Turn by Turn podcast, where we'll be talking about
Pokemon, Fire Emblem, Golden Sun, Shining Force, Mother, and so many more.
It's your turn to come and join us.
And we're back from our intermission. We are talking about Seussical here on A Broadway through Broadway. I'm here with Niki. Hi, Niki. How was your intermission?
Oh, it was really great. Yes. Looked up some videos.
Okay. Videos. During intermission, we went looking, for those of you who missed the first act, we're talking about Aaron Carter played JoJo in Seussical, the Broadway show, when the show was like totally flopping and they realized, ooh, we need financial help, so let's get some big name stars in here. So they cast Aaron Carter, like pop rap sensation, preteen heartthrob Aaron Carter, in this role in Seussical that is supposed to be like this adorable little boy, who could be played by a little boy or a little girl, and it's just so charming and darling, and here is Aaron Carter, and sure enough, we looked up the video, and sure enough, it is, I don't know, all I saw was Aaron Carter with, he's so hip, and he's so cool, and his brother is in the Backstreet Boys, and oh, I gotta stop talking like that, but I'm just saying, like...
It's a pop star, awkward, clothes too big. I don't know. It's just no.
It's not. It's the wrong kind of cute. I would say the character of JoJo, like how old would you say JoJo is supposed to be? Like 10?
I would say 10 at the max. Yes.
Yeah. So like he's supposed to be like 9 or 10 years old. And I would say like. The audience, if you got kids in the audience, they should feel like connected to JoJo. Yes. They should feel like there's parts of JoJo that they can relate to, that this is a character that would be like their buddy, their friend from school, their confidant, that sort of thing. Watching Aaron Carter's performance, all I saw was like, yeah, I'm a preteen heartthrob. And it was like, wrong kind of cute.
Yeah.
Just not, I mean, again, that may be coming from me because, Aaron Carter was in my time, he was the heartthrob when I was like 11 or 12 years old. So I just maybe have issues of it because of that, but it's, totally, no. I feel like he was maybe, even if he was the appropriate, like, was he like 10 or 11 years old during that time, or was he older?
He was definitely a teenager. Definitely a teenager. Yeah.
No, that does not work.
JoJo's not a teenager.
Disagree. I understand why they brought him in. Totally understand. But not my cup of tea.
Nope.
Not my cup of tea.
Thank you.
So who would we replace him with? Let's talk Dreamcast.
Lord.
Dreamcasts, you guys, our Broadway Dreamcast for Seussical. They're amazing. So did you have a JoJo instead of, so not Aaron Carter?
I did. So I had a lot of these I'm going back in time. So I'm going with a baby Ben Platt for JoJo.
A baby Ben Platt.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I did tell Niki a rule that during Dreamcasting we are allowed to time travel because I've had, actors who are now deceased in my Dreamcasts.
Yes.
So we gotta allow time traveling. So yeah, that's adorable. I love that.
I mean, come on, like that. I can imagine like his little falsetto baby Ben Platt. We just have to go with
yes. Oh my god. Okay, so I don't know if you know her. She hasn't done a whole ton, and she's still very, very young. Sydney Lucas as JoJo. She's probably too old for now because I think she's like either a teenager, maybe even in her 20s now. But she was young Allison in Fun Home.
Oh,
the musical.
Yes. Okay.
So. Yeah. So if you ever heard Fun Home, the musical, it's a nice musical. Not one of my super crazy favorites, but I do enjoy it. I've never seen it in real life. I've only heard the soundtrack. But there's this really beautiful, beautiful song that she sings called Ring of Keys. And when I hear Sydney Lucas sing, she has a darling voice. Again, like like the original JoJo, Andrew Keenan Boulder, that kind of traditional kid stagey voice I feel is just so charming for JoJo. And I don't know, when I hear her sing Ring of Keys on the Broadway soundtrack of Fun Home, I hear some JoJo in there. So.
I can definitely see that. Yes.
Who is your Gertrude? I'm so excited about my Gertrude. Who is your Gertrude?
Okay, so my Gertrude, I went just so because she's really popular right now, and if we want to bring this back to Broadway, we can take Philippa Sue from Hamilton.
Cool.
And, because she plays such a. I mean, Gertrude is still sweet, but she comes into her own, and I love that Philippa goes by Pippa. So Pippa, I just think could embody the sweetness of Gertrude.
Yeah. Yes. So for those of you not familiar with the show, in Seussical, Gertrude falls in love with Horton, or she just is in love with Horton, and Horton is very preoccupied with saving the Who's. I'm realizing as I'm talking right now, we never talked about the plot of Seussical, which we should have. I really hope there's no one listening to this that isn't familiar with the show. Sorry, my bad. Horton is very preoccupied with saving the Who's living on this clover, and speck of dust on this clover. Gertrude is just trying to get him to notice her and pay attention to her because she's in love with him and in love with his heart, and it's beautiful and it's darling. Philippa Sue, I love that. That's fun.
She's just cute, and Gertrude is cute. Yes.
So mine, and I had to look up. I must say, I don't know if there's been I don't think there's been a revival of Seussical or anything like that. But if there was, I had to make sure she hasn't played this because I feel like this person has Gertrude written all over her. Annalee Ashford.
Oh, yep.
Kinky Boots, and my favorite credit of hers is Legally Blonde. She plays Margot. She's the first voice in Legally Blonde, the musical. Hey, Elle, he's a lucky guy, Yes. And I feel like presence, vocally. Just everything about her, I feel like is super, super Gertrude.
It's very Gertrude, yes.
So Mr. and Mrs. Mayer, these are JoJo's parents. I didn't have a Mrs. Mayer. I don't know. I just didn't come up with one. I do have a Mr. Mayer, Victor Garber.
Oh.
So kind of a veteran of the film and screen and also stage. But I'm a big, I don't know, I wish he was in more stuff. I'm a huge Victor Garber fan, and I'm always on the lookout for, in my Dreamcast for a role that, he would even be appropriate for, now, because he's aging really well, too.
Yeah.
And I absolutely adore him on stage and on screen. He's my Mr. Mayor.
So cute. Well, I had to go back in time again, but I am a lifelong Julie Andrews crazy person. So I put Julie Andrews and Dick Van Dyke to do, Mary Poppins and Bert again as Mr. and Mrs. Mayor, because that's really, those roles are so small, but they're just cute, and that would be kind of like a, oh my gosh, crazy cameo with the original Mary and Bert as the mayors.
Cute. Okay, so that's interesting then, because keeping them together as sort of a good marketing, Nikki. That's very just like they did with Rose O'Donnell, Aaron Carter.
Yes.
It'll bring in the big bucks.
Bringing in the old
and keeping them as a pair, as opposed to another idea, which would be Dick Van Dyke as the cat, which would be epic as well.
Yes.
But then he's not paired with Julie Andrews. I see what you did there. Yes, nice. Who is your Horton?
James Corden. I was gonna keep Kevin Chamberlain because I just think he's like the embodiment of Horton. But I also like James Corden, and I think he's kind of taken a bad rap lately on some stuff, and I really think he's a talented guy. So let's put him in that role.
That's a good one. Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. No, I love that. And that is fair. It is fair to keep them sometimes. I think we've done a couple other Dreamcasts where it's just like, don't mess with it. It's just too good. I can't remember which ones we did. It might have been Rick Moranis as Seymour in Little Shop of Horrors, where we just don't touch the brilliance of it. But I had Brian Darcy James as Horton.
Oh, he's fabulous. Yes.
Yeah. Shrek and Something Rotten. I just feel like his voice would be stunning on Salah Salou and Alone in the Universe. I think it would be stunning. I of course, I feel like I put her in all of my Dreamcasts, but I had Megan Hilty as Maisie Libbert.
And I went with my girl Sutton, so I had to cast her in something, and she could. If you don't if you're listening and you don't know who Maisie is the worst character in terms of her.
She's like a terrible. And she's like the favorite though. When they you and I have both directed this with kids, and I'll tell you when we were doing this show, and our girl playing Maisie, her name is Katie. She was absolutely amazing as Maisie. So the kids really were drawn to her, and they really liked what they thought was her character. What they really liked was Katie, the actor, who just did a good job in her performance, because her, she had really good presence and her voice was very fun and powerful. But they tricked themselves into thinking I just love the character of Maisie, and we had to discuss with them. It's like you guys know that Maisie deserted her child, her baby. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
And it's like, watch the play. Watch the musical. Read your script. It's right there in front of you. She has this egg, and she just leaves it and runs away and never comes back.
Right.
And is okay and is perfectly happy with it.
Yes. She never redeems herself in the end. Unlike Sour Kangaroo,
she doesn't.
Who you think is the bad guy. But
she redeems herself.
Kangaroo, she comes around in the end. So, no, Maisie's the worst.
She learns her lesson, and comes around in the end, whereas Maisie just stays a terrible person. She's not a person, she's a bird. She remains a terrible bird the whole time. And up to the end, there's nothing, she's technically the villain, even though she doesn't do anything directly she kind of does, though. She goes and sends the backstory with her is that she has this big tail that gets all the attention. Everyone thinks she's so beautiful because she has this big tail, which could be undertone for a boob job, right?
Right.
So, and then when Gertrude wants to get Horton to notice her, and her tail is really little. Her tail has only one little feather. So she goes to Maisie. It's like, oh, well, maybe if I had a big tail like yours, Horton would notice me. And Maisie tells her, go to this doctor, and he'll give you some pills, and your tail will be bigger, and then Horton and everyone will notice you. And it's like, this is the kind of things where it's like, because it's all sung in a really happy, fun way, children don't look at this as, hey, that's kind of like a lady going in to get a boob enhancement job so that people will think she's sexier.
Right.
Kids aren't thinking that.
Nope.
Like, kids aren't thinking that. They're listening to the music and going, this song is fun.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. It's super fun, and where you just pop some pills and make everything okay.
Yeah, it's like, oh my, and then Gertrude ends up, she says she takes a couple of pills and her tail grows and she's happy, but then she wants an even bigger tail, so she takes even more pills, and then it becomes a situation where when Horton gets captured, she tries to fly to save him, and she can't fly because her tail is too out of control, and it's like, what do you think that is metaphorically suggesting? Like, so it's like we said in the beginning, if you missed the first half, we did talk about this. The show is, the music is so charming and fun and beautiful, and the show does have some really important messages and everything, but there's such adult, dark undertone that really goes over the kids' heads. They don't look at it that way, but if you're adult watching this, it's like, this is actually quite adult with so much dark undertone, which is like, again, like my favorite part about it.
Yes, right.
But it's like that Maisie becomes the favorite character, and it's like, do you guys realize that she's like probably addicted to drugs, and she deserts her child and never realizes that that's not a good thing, that she's just perfectly okay with the rest of her life of just like, it's despicable, but everyone loves her because her song is fun.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
It's crazy. But anyway, our Dreamcast, Megan Hilty, I think, would do a really nice job as that terrible character. Wow, there was no way to make that not sound like an insult.
No.
She would do a really good job at this horrible character. Okay, so last but not least, my cat. Now, I said I have to time travel a little bit for my cat. And you did too?
I did, yes.
What if we have the same person we cast as our? I'm sure we don't.
I'm sure
Mine's
we
really
don't,
weird.
but all right. I picked Carol Burnett.
Oh man.
Carol Burnett is like, I watched that show on reruns with my grandma, and I thought that there was nobody funnier than Carol Burnett. And
well, there isn't.
So I think she could handle the physicality of it, and just the like, I don't know, she could just tie that whole show together.
Wow, that's brilliant. Oh my gosh. So the cat is like one of my, I mean, I'm not going to lie. If I were in Seussical, I want to be in Seussical like 7 times, because there are so many characters in that show that I want to play.
Yes.
And I've only directed the show before. I've directed and choreographed it. I've never been in it, but I want to play Gertrude. I want to play Maisie. I want to play the cat. I want to play with the Ricochet brothers. I want to play the Bird Girls. I want to time travel and cast myself as JoJo, the little kid, so that I can sing the other part of Alone in the Universe.
Yes.
But the cat is one of my dream roles. But I actually didn't go with a woman for the cat. The cat can be played by a man or a woman, and I went with a man for mine. I went with Tim Curry.
Oh, Tim.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yes.
I think that would be so, cause the cat, what I love about the cat is he's kind of like, he's naughty. Like, he gets,
yes.
It's kind of, JoJo, JoJo is fighting, all these thinks and this overactive imagination that, his parents make it seem like that's not good. That's this, it's distracting you, and it's not the way you should be, and you shouldn't be different, and you should, it's all this like terrible messages for parents to be telling their kids. And it's because this overactive imagination and these thinks that he has all these thinks of all these crazy things, and they get him in trouble. And here comes along the cat, and anytime JoJo's trying to be good, this cat comes along and kind of nudges him like do it, like, no, it's a good thing,
Right.
And I feel like Tim Curry with, like he could, I think he would have a lot of fun with like the kind of naughty side of the cat.
Oh, definitely. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, but Carol Burnett, that's really good too. favorite song. I was going to say, let's say favorite scenes or favorite songs. Like we said before, this show is entirely sung.
Yes.
They don't stop singing to have conversations like normal people where they just talk. There's a couple short little bits and pieces here and there of like 3 or 4 little lines of dialogue within a song that they'll hit now and then. But other than that, it's totally, totally sung. Do you have a favorite number? Favorite song?
Well, I'm absolutely biased because I love Alone in the Universe. Mm-hmm. And it's like the sweetest, I don't even know. The Horton and JoJo scene is just beautiful, and it's my favorite hands down.
Wow. I had to think about this for like a really long time. I knew deep down what my answer was all the time. Because like if someone asked me, like, I did the game where it's like ask yourself this question and then don't think about your answer, just speak.
Yeah.
But honestly, because this is one of those shows, and I've said that about a couple other episodes of shows that we've talked about on this podcast. But you know a score is good when you start it from like track 1 and you don't skip any songs.
Yes.
You just let it play.
Yep.
And you don't skip anything because you love each track just as much as the one before and the one after. However, when I got the Seussical Junior script, when we were choosing that show to do at the box, and I was directing and choreographing that show, and I found out that Having a Hunch is not in the junior version.
Yeah.
I was livid. I was ready to like bang my head against the wall. I was livid. And I then went into it, was like, well, I have to add it.
I remember you wanting to do that.
I have to add it. And the only reason I didn't is because this sort of like brings us back to what we were talking about in the first half of this episode. The kinds of cuts that they did for the junior version of this show, it takes away a very large plot line of JoJo's, where JoJo goes to military school and then leaves military school and gets lost and has to find his way home. That isn't in the junior version. JoJo doesn't run away and get lost and need to find his way home. So the Having a Hunch song happens when JoJo, I sound like a broken record, is lost and needs to find his way home. And the Cat and ensemble comes along and has this awesome, like, creepy, fun, jazzy number of Having a Hunch where they sing, and at the end of it, JoJo finds his way home. And so when I was looking through the junior script and found, well, they cut the entire plot line of JoJo not being at home, I don't have any... Yeah. That doesn't. There's no way I can make it make this make sense. The best I could have done would have been like, as people are coming into the theater, and have a little pre-show number where I choreographed because I want to choreograph the number. Yeah. Because it's a super super jazzy number, and I was like, oh my gosh, and like jazz is my favorite style to choreograph. I was like, I am all over this choreography, and I was like, I have all this choreography in my head, and I have no one's feet to give it to. And I strongly considered, like, if we would have had time, teaching the number to the kids and just having it be a little pre-show entertainment. Just because it's like, I need to do something with this choreography that I have. Yes. And the number isn't in the stinking show. Right. But it turns out that the show vocally is quite difficult, and we did not have extra rehearsal time to learn a number that's not in the show. It was tough enough to get everyone to just learn the numbers that are in the show. So we had to prioritize that a little bit, the numbers that are in the show. But yeah, Having a Hunch. And like, I mean, like we kind of said in the beginning, you know, it's Dr. Seuss. There's such brilliant quotes of Dr. Seuss throughout the books and throughout Seussical, which are basically, you know, the books in song form practically. Yes. I don't remember what show it was, but there was one show that I was in that really stung when it closed, and I was really, really down. Like, and I always get post-show blues, but this one was particularly difficult to say goodbye to. And I got a gift that was a Dr. Seuss quote saying, "Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened." Yes. And that just, like, it stuck with me. And I was like, and I feel like that's such, like, God, it's so simple, but it's such beautiful advice to give to anyone suffering from anything. Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. And of course it's easier said than done. Of course it's not like it's just a Band-Aid that just fixes everything and makes you all better right away. But it's a really important thing to remember when struggling through dealing with any sort of like missing someone or having something, not go on anymore, or whatever it is you're going through. And then I had just such a strong appreciation for like these words of Dr. Seuss and the brilliance that's in there. And one of my favorite kind of stanzas is from Having a Hunch, and it's not in the stinking junior version. But it's right in the middle of Having a Hunch, and it says, I have the lyrics up because I have to get this just right, or Dr. Seuss will, kill me. That was a weird thing to say. And having a hunch, and oh, the places you'll go. I've got brains in my head and feet in my shoes, so steer yourself any direction you choose. And oh, the places you'll go. You're on your own, you know what you know. Don't worry about how fast or how slow. Be certain you step with caution and tact, 'cause life is a great big balancing act. And you will succeed, yes you will. 98.75% guaranteed. I just there's so much gold in there, man. And again, this was like I said in the beginning, and like what you said about having kind of a almost like a picture show to go with it, to follow all these characters. And then I want subtitles so that people don't miss the brilliance of that, because when it's sung, you might miss it. And it's like the simplicity of his words, yet how powerful they are.
Yes.
I can't say it. I can't say enough. I could have a whole episode of a podcast, not about Seussical, but just about Dr. Seuss quotes.
Well, that book is Oh, the Places You'll Go, and a lot of people get that for like a graduation gift, because it's about, it is, you move on and you're going to come to a lot of things. I think he talks about you're going to have really bad days and all this stuff, but then you're going to have really good days. And it's just because that's how life is. And so it's just really, a lot of our parents, where I teach, they give those books to their kindergarten teachers. And then as the kids go up each year, the teacher signs in the books so that they have a little message from their teacher each year. And it's just and it's very fitting for what kids go through, and to have that part in that song and then not have the song in the kids' version is really...
It is. It's good because it's such a brilliant... And even the 98.75% guaranteed, because it gives you all this stuff about this is how it is, and this is really good advice, and this is what we're telling you about how life is and how you're going to grow up. But also there's this really small chance that everything we're telling you is actually not right.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Stuff is going to come up.
Yeah, and I love that because it's real, and so often, especially in kids stuff, it can create people to have that sort of naivety because it's something was told to them when they were little that wasn't totally real. And I love that the Dr. Seuss stuff, that the stuff he says is real.
Yes.
And it's very, it can be very encouraging and very comforting, but also real. Also real life.
Very real.
The other thing that I hate about Having a Hunch not being in the junior version is I am incapable of listening to Having a Hunch, and when it gets to the end, it ends. If you haven't heard the song, stop what you're doing. Turn this podcast off. Go listen to Having a Hunch from Seussical. Anyway. The ending, the follow your hunch, follow it, follow your hunch, follow it home, and Jojo finds his way home. And the music, the instrumental, cycles out of this creepy, mysterious, sneaky, jazzy number into this really uplifting, beautiful instrumental that has a little bit of a hint of I have wings, yes, I can fly, from Alone in the Universe.
Yes.
From Alone in the Universe, right underneath, that's come out of this really creepy, dark, kind of almost sinister sounding number. And oh my gosh, when it hits that part of the song, I was listening to it this morning just sort of to get in the mood for this episode, and I well up. I can't help it. It is stunningly beautiful, especially if, like you said, because I like you, I'm a huge I'm the Alone in the Universe duet. I just can't with that duet. Sorry, this episode has totally turned into just two fangirls. Hey, let's go. Well, listen, we're just about out of time, Niki. But is there anything else? Any other favorite songs or anything about your personal connection or experience or anything like this with this show that you like to share with our listeners before we wrap up today?
Well, just to tell people like how much we actually really love the show in our home. Our dog.
In case you haven't gotten that yet.
Our dog's name is Jojo. When we were getting our puppy, like we could not think of a name, and actually my husband was like, why don't we go with Jojo? And Audrey, who played Jojo, she's like, like after my first lead role? And he was like, yeah. So she's Jojo, and she like is, she's super special is what we call her. And we also have a guinea pig named Gertrude. So
yes,
I'd like to thank Dr. Seuss for helping us name our animals in this house.
So, and of course, someday they're going to get like a cat or something, and of course it'll be Horton or Maisie.
Maisie. Oh, Maisie would be so cute for a cat.
Maisie totally would. I see that all the time on the Facebook group of All Things Broadway, where people get a new pet, and they'll post things like, post your best Broadway pet names here, and people are listing things, like Cosette and things like just the best like pet Broadway names.
Right, and here I'm like, okay, what do you want from Seussical? Because I can help you.
Right? Seussical has really good names in it. Like all the characters are really fun names and really appropriate names for pets, I must say. Well, listen, I think the only other thing I like to say about this show I believe it was for a while. It was like in the top 3 most widely chosen shows for schools. The junior version or the full version, if you're not dealing with, real littles or anything. It's a really common choice for schools and for community theaters. It is one of those shows where it is very, very flexible cast. Lots and lots of characters that can be played by men or women, all different ethnicities, lots of different heights. So you have a really open idea for, casting and everything, which is always really useful. I've seen low budget productions of this show that work beautifully. And I've seen high budget productions of this show where they really go crazy with lots of crazy, like the full on sets and costumes. And those are great as well. So you have a lot of flexibility there, which is always huge, especially for, community theaters where their budgets can be pretty rangy and everything. But yeah, between the expandable cast and flexible casting options, as well as technical enhancements that can really be totally wide open and creative, I feel like it's a really, really good choice. Also, obsessed with the music. Just obsessed. Just obsessed, in case y'all didn't get that yet. Why are you still here? Why aren't you listening to Seussical? Well, listen, Niki, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had fun.
Come on, I couldn't have more fun with that.
Yeah. For sure. So if you'd like more information on my little theater in Oconomowoc, no one knows what that is, Allison. I know, Allison. Outside of about 30 minutes outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, is the Box Theater Company. We're on Facebook and Instagram if you want to check us out. I'm on Allie.Chick, CHIC on Instagram if you want to follow me. Mostly just pictures of show stuff and my dog and my horse. That does it for today. Niki, thanks so much for joining me again on A Broad's Way Through Broadway.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's our final bow, blackout, and curtain.